How are you? DL Tillery, welcome.
Hey.
The Mistress of Horror. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just
Good.
getting out of my mistress lair, you know.
Yeah, you did. And you're looking very like you've got your look together and the makeup's all on point and loving it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I am going to show you some love from some people out there saying hello. Becky
hi.
This is Novel Nana.
I know. I love Novel Nana.
Like, this is one of her other accounts. She's got like 2 or 3. And so
I know she does.
I'm like, I don't know which one I'm getting. And then Richard Holiday.
Hello.
Hello. And you know this one. She's here.
Oh, hey, Aphrodite. My sister in crime.
That's true. That's true. So welcome. DL Tillery, I've been wanting to do this for some time.
Yes, I'm excited.
We have been running in the same DM group on Facebook for a little bit, and I have been a big fan. So I was like, as soon as we can figure out how to make this happen, we're going to make this a thing. Okay. So you introduce yourself and take it away. I'll give you the floor.
Hey, everyone. I'm author DL Tillery, also known as the Mistress of Horror. I love writing horror and things that make people scared and not be able to sleep at night. That's always my biggest goal. When someone tells me that they haven't slept because of something in mind that they read, ooh, it gives me chills. But yes, on my channel, I like to talk about horror, everything. And don't get it twisted. I dibble and dabble in quite a many little things.
That's true. We are going to get into it all. You guys aren't even going to believe all the stuff that DL manages while being a YouTube personality. So it's no small feat. So, okay, real quick, I'm just going to tell people who haven't been here before the format in case you haven't been with us. So the first hour is all me and my questions. I've sent an outline to Danette in advance. She can look it over and kind of know what's going on. So no gotcha questions. Then in the middle is the gotcha part. Not really, but we do some rapid fire questions, like 15 to 20. And they're short answers. So she'll answer in as few words as possible. And it's just kind of a get to know you icebreaker kind of situation. And then the back half of the interview is all of your questions in live chat. So if you can't stay with us and you have a question for her, anything about the elements of horror, horror movies, horror books, or her own works and contributions. She has a short story that's out now in an anthology. She has a debut novel coming out, I think, in the fall.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yes, my debut novel will be coming out around Halloween. I wonder why.
That's perfect. Okay, obviously that's your marketing way. Go you. So anyway, if you can't stay to the end and you have a question about any of those things, drop it in comments and we'll pull it up later when we get to the comment section. Okay, with that said, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. Okay, all about DL Tillery. So number one, would you share anything with us about your personal life that you're comfortable sharing?
Sure, of course. I'm an open book, so to speak. Actually, I wear many hats. I do lots of things. I'm 36 years old, and you know, they have this saying when you're a black chick, black doesn't crack. So that's a saying. You might have heard it before. So people always ask me like my age. When I take all of my makeup off, then I tend to look like I'm 12. Aphrodite, she always says that and makes that comment. But yes, I also have a daughter who is 4 going on 5. I love her to pieces. You may hear her in the background from time to time knocking on my office door because she doesn't like to be away from mommy. Wow. But yes, I actually am located in Maryland of the USA, and I reside in a home with my 2 older brother, my older brother, my younger little brother, and my mother and my daughter. So we're like a little village. We kind of stay out of each other's way, but we don't always.
It doesn't always happen. That's okay.
It doesn't. So yes.
Sweet. Okay. What would fans of your channel be surprised to learn about you?
They may be surprised to learn that I am an artist in many ways. I also dance, and I've been into dance since I was 8 years old. I'm predominantly known as a fusion belly dancer, actually. So one of the biggest things that they may or may not know, because that depends on new people come in my channel, some of my fan base that's already there, that I have mentioned it before, but I run a big convention around belly dance and body acceptance. I'm very big on body and self-acceptance. So most of the events and things that I put together are based around those things because I think it's very important. So a lot of my fan base may not know that I am a professional performance artist.
Interesting. I love the body acceptance piece. That's really important.
I think
we have a messed up view, at least in America. I don't know about other places in the world, but here in America, I think really messed up view of body, body.
They really do. Really.
So, okay, I didn't know that about you. I'm fascinated and I watch all your stuff. Okay. What is your hidden talent?
My hidden talent is I sing in about 7 languages.
Yeah. So how many languages do you speak? Multiple, right?
I speak English, and Japanese is my secondary language. I'm currently learning Korean and picking up German. So I'm really into those. I started learning Japanese in my mid to late teens. I'm still learning because it is a language of love for me. But Korean is my beast right now to contend with, though it actually helps knowing Japanese. But yes, I sing. I pick up languages really quickly. Now, I don't speak all those languages fluently, but I can sing in them. So if you technically give me a song and I listen to it a few times, then I usually can sing in that language. So I just a talent that I kind of picked up. So I sing the ones that I sing in that I can pick up. It's English, obviously, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, French, German, Gaelic, and there's another one that I picked up as well. But yes, it's really fun. It's really fun. I love doing it. I think languages, singing and music is a barrier that it could crack through that barrier of language barriers and it help people connect. Music definitely does. So my hidden talent is to sing in 7 different languages. But I also, one of my hidden talents is just singing in general. I sing a cappella, mostly opera, but I can sing a lot of things.
Love that. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You're an incredibly busy businesswoman, which I know because I know you behind the scenes.
Yes.
When did you discover your entrepreneurial spirit?
Actually, I discovered that kind of early on. I kind of can thank my mother for that.
She's here, by the way.
Yes, I know. She told me she would be. She's a front stage mom. She's not a backstage.
I love it. I love it.
And so, hello, lady. We call her lady around here.
Lady. Okay.
Yes, she has a title.
Hi,
but I got my entrepreneurship early on because my mother started a cleaning business when my father passed away when I was 12 years old. And when she started that, I was 12 and I was running the back end of the business. She didn't really want me out in the field work at that time, but I would go with her into the field and I ran all the administrative work. I wrote all the contracts. I would send the threatening letters to people who didn't want to pay on time, which is really funny. Being 12 or 13 years old, I wrote to Goodwill Industries because she had a contract with them and they didn't want to pay on time. Being a teenager and getting to write this big corporation a letter like, listen, you have to pay your bill. And they're like, well, we don't pay late fees. And I was like, well, you can't be late then. So those type of instances. So I got to be an entrepreneur early on and watching my mother and, being a single mother after my father passed away and taking on a business on her own because she had to have her own time and she ran things. She's that type. So I picked it up from her quite easily and started my own businesses as I got older. So I opened my own dance company when I was around 22, 23. And I was teaching dance and doing recitals for my students and performing at small events and things like that around my early 20s. So I had opened my own dance company around that time. At the time, it was called Wild Belly Dance with a Twist. So back then, I started my own business. So I've constantly, when I could have a skill, I turn it into business a lot of the time.
Yeah, you monetize it.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. What would you say you've learned as a businesswoman that would help you as an author?
I would say having the go-getter attitude, running the show, because as a author, especially a self-published author specifically, it's very helpful in that way because we have to wear so many hats when we are self-published authors. And also, even if you're traditionally published, you're still going to have to deal with some very serious business side-based things, you know. Advertising being one of the main things, because whether you are self-published or traditional, you are going to have to be an advertiser. So learning those things early on, advertising of business, I dealt with those things from my teens. So I have an inside track to, you know, picking up an industry and figuring out how and who to market it to, look into those things. And I'm not telling someone who hasn't run a business that they can't do it, but it's intelligent for you to look into the industry that you're going into, figure out who you're marketing to. Even taking some classes online is a very good idea. Skillshare is one of the ones I use, because even though I run business, I still, like, there's a whole industry in writing that you have to understand if you want to come out the gate strong. You know, so yes.
Okay, love that. Now, last question on this, and then I'm going to shift to talking about the Mistress of Horror. But my last question on business. So is there one you haven't tried that you'd want to dabble in?
Actually, the talent that I mentioned earlier, I never dabbled into that professionally. And I've always was interested in doing that. And I think there's no such thing as you're too old to do something or it's too late to do something. So if the opportunity presented itself, such as I opened the door, because I believe that's how opportunities happen, then I think that I would be interested in that. If I did do professionally sing, then I would do that. I'm very interested in being a professional.
Yeah, totally. I love that. All right, folks, I'm going to do a little banner switch because we're moving on to talking about the Mistress of Horror. So I love your nickname. How and where did it come from? Like,
actually, it's funny. The Mistress of Horror came from my own thought process around the horror industry. The Masters of Horror. There are the Masters of Horror in the horror industry. Some of us know. We just don't necessarily, if you're not in the horror industry, then you don't really know that they are. But if you look it up and look up the Masters of Horror, whole list will come up. Wes Craven would be one. There's a guy, his first name is Kane. He was actually in one of his own movies, Hatchet, which is more of a monster kind of based horror movie. He's very big guy. He actually scares people on sets. But he's one of the Masters of Horror. So these type of people are the Masters of Horror. Stephen King could be considered a Master of Horror. So I was like, you know what? How about I be the first Mistress of Horror? I'm sure they exist maybe already, but I haven't heard of any. So I said, you know what? I'll be the Mistress of Horror then, and just dabble right into that. I love horror. I grew up with horror. So I'm like, listen, Mistress of Horror, here we go. That's
you
how
just
it came about.
Stuck your flag in the ground. And
I'm taking this.
There you go. I love it. Well, I think it fits you perfectly. So when did you realize you loved horror books, films, short stories, all the above?
Actually, film came first, probably because my mother was a horror buff, believe it or not. You wouldn't know that today because she's not really a horror buff anymore. I guess sometimes when people get a little bit older, they kind of stray back from like the scary things. But she was right. She was very much into horror. When I was growing up, I mean, I was a little kid and we were looking at like Freddy Krueger and The Thing and The Stuff and all these different creepy type of horror movies. And it was just nothing. It was just a horror. Like, we used to watch movies in our family. That was our thing. Like, we'd sit down, watch movies, eat popcorn. And my mother was very much into horror. My father was more into action movies and comedies, but my mom was into horror. So I grew up with horror. It was nothing new to me. As far as books, I started getting into those when I was like in my early teens and finding out about, like, I mean, I grew up with like R.L. Stein, you know, Goosebumps, things like that, but that's like more around the kid type of horror. So in middle grade, so I was, you know, already introduced to older, more mature horror in that instance. So it started very early from life of film, and then teenage years, books and things came into play. I just love it. Maybe I'm too creepy for that.
No, I love it. You know, it's funny. I was an R.L. Stein. We're about the same age. I was an R.L. Stein person too. Like that, that was one of my first like series of books I read as a kid. And I used to think, oh, so scary.
Well, you're a kid. Certain things scare you more. And when you get older, you're like, wait, I was scared of that.
I know, right? It's like I've reread one or two lately, just
You're like,
going through old books, and
how they scare me?
I was kind of like, what was I scared of here? But yeah. So okay, what horror book or movie can you identify as your first favorite?
The first movie I identified, and I saw so many at that time, but The Thing. There's this horror movie called The Thing.
So what's the story of The Thing?
Now, The Thing is, of course, if you've been on my channel, then you know I love cosmic horror, and you know I love cosmic beings and things like that. The Thing is very cosmic horror based, and what happens is actually Kurt Russell is in it. Some very prominent people are in this horror movie, and it's set in a so it's set in a cold setting. So it's like it's very cold. They're out in Alaska type of thing, and then they're like excavators and like scientists and things, and they have other people at these facilities to help run things. So at some point they're digging, they come across this thing, and the other facility they did not. The place that the movie is set in, and this thing they don't have a name for it because they don't know what it is, and you don't know that the thing is in you. So the thing does this, what I want to say, it like forms with you. So if the thing awakens in you, because you don't know, you've been taken over and replaced by the thing. And let's say if you find out that the thing is there in that room, it will then show itself, may migrate with you as like going together as one. Is very disgusting. Like it's one of the most, like, it's one of those horror movies that you will never forget.
Yes.
And it's just like The Thing is one of those really good horror stories that, like, I think everybody needs to watch that movie. Like, if you haven't seen it, like, it's gonna creep you out. And it had a sequel came out, so it's not like it stopped being made. So a sequel came out. It has a backstory. Like the sequel that came out was like a prequel, so you see where the thing technically came from. Yeah, it's just so like it's evolving. Like you're going to be creeped out completely.
So here's a question, because I there was a movie that terrified me as a kid, and it was about it's called The Body Snatcher, or something about the body snatcher.
Yes, the body snatcher.
Sleep, and they like come in your head. So is that a celestial, or what did you call it? A celestial?
It's a cosmic being.
That's what I mean. Is it a cosmic being, or is that an alien, or like
that would be more terrestrial. That would be more alien based.
Gotcha.
But that's more sci-fi. But it can get crossed, like the horror aspects, because this stuff is scary too. So sci-fi and science fiction can cross and be like horror being alien subgenre. Right. Aliens are quite terrifying in the whole sense of it, because not explained. You don't understand them. You don't know what they're going to do to you, so that can cross into horror very easily. The line of science fiction and horror can be crossed very easily. Okay. I wondered about that. Oh, I'm seeing people saying in the chat, Aphrodite said The Thing is really good. Yes. Body Snatcher type monster. Yes, it was the Body Snatchers. By the way, I wanted you to see this just so you knew the offer was out there. DL is fully willing to put his sister on a track. Whenever. Oh yeah, cool. There you go. Record deals made here on this show. You're welcome. The Shining. Yes. Okay, so The Shining, that's a good question. So what's the being in The Shining? Is it is it in his head? Now The Shining it's a cross between, it's definitely horror because of the aspects, but there's mind powers in it. So supernatural. Okay. And sometimes in the writing world we call it paranormal. Yeah. So those type of aspects are in The Shining. That's really what The Shining was about. If you read the books to the movies. Now, I had a video talking about The Shining. Now, I don't like the original Shining movie. Right, I remember the video. Yeah, so I like the remake because Stephen King was more involved with it. So they kind of would do a lot of disrespect to his books into film in a lot of cases. And I know and understand that when you transfer from novel to film, there are going to be instances where things are lost, but not when you do them intentionally. To me, that's disrespectful to the writer and their story they were trying to tell. Yeah. In a lot of cases, a lot of us writers and screenplay writers kind of butt heads a lot of the time, because one will be like, I could do this better than you, and the other one will be like, I could do this better than you. So that type of instances can happen where they're going to do a rewrite of what you wrote because they figure they could do it better. But when the original Shining, so many people are in love with the original Shining because they love Jack Nicholson. Like, they're really in love with Jack Nicholson more than anything. And they're like, well, nobody else can do this part than him. And I'm like, that's not really how this works. Like, we're worried about the story, if the story is going to be told correctly. They kind of messed it up a little bit when they made the original one, because they changed how the father was interacting. It made him look more like a villain when he wasn't completely a villain. There was alcoholism involved in the story. We all know this, but it didn't end like it did on the original Shining. The second version of the Shining, that was more close to the book and how it happened.
I didn't see that one, so I should see that.
You should definitely check that one. I was more close to the book.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry, I got us off track. So how long have you been on AuthorTube, and what advice would you give someone who is still in their first year?
Well, I mean, I've been on AuthorTube now for about 2 years, over 2 years now. And I'm like, wow, really? So I actually started mine on October, Halloween, 2018. So that was my debut, and I had the video of, like, new to AuthorTube, like the tag that they had. So I did that, and it's just been a slow burn, a slow growth, which in some cases, some people say that that's better than fast growth, which is like, okay, you kind of wish you had fast growth, but they say that it's better for slower growth because those are the people that's going to stay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that as it is. So I would give advice to someone new who's starting out, who is in their first year, to stick with it, even if you feel like it's not going exactly the way you planned. Also, understand your brand, what you're doing. It's nothing wrong with changing your brand if you start going in a different direction, because even I started in a different setting. I was more like, this is AuthorTube, and I'm going to be doing, like, telling, like, how I write things and corners, and I do those every once in a while still. And, I'm going to talk about my journey through writing, and I'm just on my books, blah, blah, blah. But then as I was on AuthorTube after about a year, then I started seeing that, I could talk about more things. I could be a fusion channel. I decided I wanted to be, HorrorTube based and BookTube with AuthorTube elements. So figuring out your brand and what you want your channel to be about, that's the key, because the people will come when you build. So you kind of just want to make your channel whatever it is you want to put out there to the public and stick with it. That's the biggest thing. Make your brand, put it out there, and then it'll happen. So.
Okay. Where will you be heading next online? What's up for you?
What I'm going to be doing next, me, I'm always doing a million things.
You need 3 or 4 more.
Of course, there's always space for more. I'm going to be starting a Twitch channel around video games. Now, if you can see in the background over here,
you have quite.
Yes, that's a little actually. I have like a collection of over 600 myself, and that's like my PS4 games. And I'm going to start a Twitch channel for video games. That's a big thing these days, actually, like female gamers on Twitch and blah, blah, blah. So I figured, I'm a gamer. I love video games. So why not start a Twitch channel and then talk to my audience? And then some of my people who know me from writing, they can come over and chill with me, just kind of hang out with me while I play video games, and we chat and stuff like that. So I'll be heading over to Twitch very soon. But yeah, I'm all over the place.
Well, let me know when you do the Twitch, because I'll do some shout outs on my socials for people. Okay, we are gonna switch to a spooky story that you wrote.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about The Room Within. So first of all, how did the anthology come about? Like, how did you kind of become aware of it? And did you have to like submit, or were you asked? Like, what was the process?
Actually, I didn't know about the anthology, and Regina from Haunted Library over her channel, she reached out to me. I got an email one day in my inbox from her, and I didn't know that the anthology was doing, because she does like a call out. She'll do like a YouTube video that is coming, and then people can submit. So she reached out to me personally, which I was super honored that she even knew I existed. So she reached out to me and said, would you like to submit a story? And so happened I was already writing a story that I actually had put out on my website. And this story was about local haunts. So when she said, oh, this local haunt has to be a story that's about your local like haunts and different things and going on in your state or something like that. And I was thinking, oh, I have a story that's similar to that. So it kind of worked out. So I've reworked it a little bit, and there you go. And I submitted it, and she was like, here you go.
Well, it's super spooky. I mean, it gave me all kinds of chills. I am sharing my screen right now so folks can go see. So head over to Amazon, everybody. The link is in the description below. Your Kindle is $2.99. Your paperback is $9.95. And there's some great stories in here. I mean, I'm partial to yours, but of course, there are some great stories. So
yes, there's a lot of good authors. And I think it's about 19 of us all together, including Regina.
Yeah. So I love the idea of it. So what was the process for writing the story? Like number of drafts? Did you CP it? Did you beta it? You said you had it on your website. So like, how did you get from idea to the point of publishing on your website?
So the funny thing about The Room Within, it kind of came about with me, like when I first wrote it, I pantsed it, which is not me, by the way. Not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely a planner for sure.
Okay.
Definitely every aspect of my life. but yes, I pants this story. I mean, short stories for me is a little easy, very easy to pants them to begin with, and that's kind of what happened with The Room Within. So I did pants it. I wrote it. I did have an alpha reader, Aphrodite. She's my alpha reader pretty much for all my stuff. So we always shoot ideas off of each other. So I let her read it, even though Aphrodite is not the horror reader type. she gets a little scared than most people, but she did read it for me. She really liked it. It gave her nightmares, so that was a plus. So it was like, yes, this is on the right track if you're like not sleeping at night, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like, and here's the thing. Before I had read it, you had posted a video and said, "Hey guys, go check out this." And I can't even remember the name of the YouTuber. I should have.
That Harpies in the Trees.
Okay, cool. I'll link that later. That reading below because, and then her reading with like the
she's good
and the stuff. I was just
she's like, so good.
yeah. I got to the end and I was just like, oh my god. So anyway, yeah, nailed it. Good, well done, bravo. Okay, sorry. I'll get back on track. So the idea itself came from where?
The idea, funny. I'm like that writer that may sometimes see something and then the idea is born. Okay. Now I'm in quite a few groups on Facebook. Also I have a problem. I buy covers a lot. I buy pre-made covers a lot because sometimes I see them and like, damn, story's born, you know?
Yeah.
But in this case, I was in one of the writing groups I'm in called Writers Unite. They do prompts every month. Okay. So on the first day of the month, they will, in the group, put a picture. And they say, you can write this. And then they give the description, like you can go from 50 words to, I think it was like, something like 3,000 or something like that. So you could do a poem, you could do a short story, you do flash fiction, whatever. It just can't go past this little end here. So I saw this prompt. The picture was just a chair and an addict, and it was it had a bit of a green hue to the room, and I was like, So when I saw that, the idea started being born in my head. Now it's an element that came in from all things. So then I started thinking about local places in my state that are haunted. I've even lived in a house of my own that had some ghosts here and there. Same. Yes. And so those aspects, so it was based off of some local house hauntings. And then I ran with it and it kind of integrated into monster horror a little bit. So
I mean, would you categorize it as is it a monster? Because I was thinking going in, it was kind of like an It character. You know, it was like what's the word? A character you can't beat.
Can't understand. Well, the funny thing about the character in there, that's the villain, she's from my universe.
Wait, your universe of your novel?
Mm-hmm. Let's just say I didn't use the same name because when you read my story that we'll talk about, when you read that, you'll see her name pop up. So she's not she's in my universe, just say.
God, I thought I was done with her forever. I thought I left her in that room.
Oh no, you get to know her a lot more.
I love that. Okay. So, all right. So is any of this story so none of it's from an actual event?
Only actual event that is based upon is the local haunted places in Maryland itself.
Right.
I did take some of the haunted houses that we have historically and research some of them, and then some of my own type of haunting ideas of how a house feels in that way. So it is based off the ideas of these local places that's in Maryland being haunted, and every state honestly has haunted houses or houses people have had experiences in and feelings. So yes, and I'm going to throw a little bit of a teaser in here real quick. That's not the end of The Room Within. So look out sometime this year, probably later, getting close to the fall. There is a chapter 2 that closes out The Room Within. And I know a lot of people are like, if who read it are like, wait, didn't something bad happen to?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, don't we know how that ended?
Or do we?
I'm intrigued. I mean, I would have been intrigued anyway, but okay, that's ultra fascinating. So what about Daniel Elliott? Is he based on anyone? Is he someone that you knew, like for a character like that, for example, is that based on someone you know, or someone that like, you know, you've worked with, or something that kind of inspires the character? Or do you just care, like you said, you pantsed it. So did you just kind of draw him out of your well?
Yeah, Daniel kind of just came out of me pantsing. Even though I pantsed, my character bios that I do for my stories, just like when I outline, are very in depth. I have this, if you look on my channel, I have these steps before outlining that I do. So I do my character, I build my stories for my characters a lot of the time. So Daniel kind of came out of that, just the whole thought process of, okay, this guy buying a house. And then Daniel was kind of born, like his personality, the who he is. A lot of things that people who read the books won't know about him ever, possibly. But me, the writer, knows all his ins and outs. But yes, Daniel just came out of my mind. I haven't based him off of anyone. Even his name was just like, midst of the book, I was kind of like, Daniel, it's a good name. Elliot, also good name.
Love it. Okay, no, I love it. So my last question for this, you kind of already answered, which was pantsing or plotting. Mm-hmm. And you kind of answered that. So we are going to scooch right on over to craft. Yeah. So hold on, let me change banner. This is the problem. I need like a team to do this part for me. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are currently working on your debut novel.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that project? Now, you kind of already teased something, but like, for instance, can you say the title?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I didn't know if you were talking about it openly on your channel.
Yeah, I have talked about it. Actually, I released a picture of the main character that I had an artist do even on my channel.
Look then.
Yes. Cagliostro, Tale of the Libertin is the name of the first book. It is a 3-part series.
Wow. So, and so make sure I'm saying it right. Cagliostro?
Cagliostro.
Cagliostro.
It's based from the name Cagliostro.
Okay.
But I made up his name from that name. So Cagliostro.
Okay, I was going to ask, so is there meant to be like, should I be intuiting anything from that name? Like
that's the main character. That's the main character. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking myself personally, it's going to fall under dark fantasy at the end of the day. It does have elements, I would say, paranormal, supernatural, and horror elements, and there is a subplot of romance.
Interesting. Righty. I'm dying, like, and how The Room Within. Now I'm just like, and how does it fit in? But okay, now I'm just fascinated. So what about other short stories? Will we be seeing any other short stories from you in the coming future?
Yes, actually, I have one that's coming out in December, and another anthology with Regina St. Clair from the Haunted Library. She's doing another one with different HorrorTubers and AuthorTubers that are in the horror genres. And this one is based around the cold. So, yes, I believe the title is going to be Served Chilled, as far as like the anthology. And my title of my short story is Practicals.
Okay. Okay. Love it. So have you already got that one like done in the bag?
Oh, that's done, submitted, edited, already sent over to her. It's coming out in December. She'll do a whole thing. She'll release like the cover a little while before and then the release date and things like that.
That's so exciting. Okay. Well, I'll plug that on my socials when the time comes. So what does your writing routine look like?
My writing routine is like all over the place. I mean, purely transparent about it. All the things that I do, I tend to write when I wouldn't say have a chance, because honestly, we can make time to do anything we like to do. But I very specifically keep my iPad with me because I cannot always get down to my office. I have a 4-year-old. I work a lot. So I can't always get to my office to do writing. So I keep my iPad with me, and that's where I write predominantly on there. So when I'm working on a novel, I tend to not read. So that's part of my whole layout. I don't read other stories while I'm working on a main novel. When I'm writing short stories, I will still do my TBR list, but that's definitely a big thing for me, not to read novels that I'm really going to be into while I am working on a very specific project, because I really don't want to be influenced. We being humans, we are easily influenced. So I don't want to be influenced at that time. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So what sorts of stories would you write that might surprise your readers?
One that would definitely surprise them is erotica. So I do have a pen name for planned erotic tales that will come out. I have a pen name for children's stories too. So I write all over the spectrum because that's just how I am. I do a lot of everything. So my writing is no different at all. It's all the same. So definitely erotica would be one of the ones people are going to be a little shocked by. And my pen name for those stories is Lavinia Hart.
I love that. Okay.
My middle name is Lavinia. That's what the L is for.
Oh, God, I love that name.
Thank you. It's a family name. My father's side. My father is Native American, and all of the women on his side of the family end up with the name. They copy my mom. My mom started it first, so she named me Lavinia after my grandmother.
Right.
And then everybody else started doing the same thing. So the females on my father's side have the name Lavinia. So that's what the L is for. And Hart, I was like, you know what? This is going to be, erotica. So I'm going to throw something spicy in there. Yeah. So Lavinia Hart.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Can't wait for that. So now, okay, what would you say who's an author that you'd most want to be compared to? Your writing.
Ooh, I don't know. I would be so honored for any, honestly, because but anyone in the horror industry, if I could get compared to like H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King or just if I get compared to someone outside of the horror genre, would be awesome too, because I do write other things outside of that. But one of my favorite writers, I would like, if I got compared to him, I probably would faint. R.A. Salvatore, and Anne Rice. If I could compare it to any of them, that would be like fangirl happening.
Yeah. Okay, this is from your mom, so can I read it first? I think
she always wants to read myself first. Yeah, sure. You can read it first. Now I don't know if you talk about my erotica stuff.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, are we talking about the erotica stuff? Because like that's awkward email back. Like,
oh, she can handle it. She'll be all right.
Okay. All right,
she wants to read it. I'll let her read it.
Okay, lady. I like her already. All right, I have another name for my erotica other than Minx, and it's Tuesday Taylor. Oh, I like that.
Uh-oh, watch out.
Watch out for Tuesday. All right, which author or writer has had the most influence on your writing or your craft?
I would definitely say H.P. Lovecraft.
Interesting. Okay,
because of his cosmic horror. Okay. Everyone knows Cthulhu.
Okay.
You say most of the time they end up almost calling cosmic horror that every single time. They're like Cthulhu horror because he's like the guy behind it. He brought it to light more or less. So everyone everybody like loses it like with that stuff. Like if you haven't read or seen any of his stuff, I definitely recommend The Mouth of Madness. And yeah, The Mouth of Madness is the movie adaptation. The story adaptation is At the Mountain of Madness.
At the Mountain of Madness.
Very and cosmic horror is very psychological.
Okay.
Definitely has psychological elements, but not on the side of this isn't really happening.
Yeah.
Oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
But it's going to psychologically break you.
Yeah.
But like one of the people in the chat mentioned Shining, she said psychological horror. Yes, it definitely has psychological horror elements that you put it kind of under that. But I told you, like the mind stuff that starts going into like supernatural paranormal setting because of the mind power. It's kind of like mind based with the Shining, the whole word Shining.
Yeah.
That's what he used it as in the book, calling it the Shining. But yeah, does fall on the type of psychological horror.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Now, as a writer, what would you say is your greatest strength, and then your thing you'd like to improve upon?
I would say my greatest strength is character like build and like their backgrounds and things. Improve upon maybe world building. I am getting better at it, but I think that it could be better. You know what I mean? Like you always know what your strengths and weaknesses are. I don't think I have any problem creating the story itself or the characters, but I want to make sure that my world building is on point, and I definitely always trying to improve there.
Okay. All right. That's fair. What advice would you give a new writer just starting out?
My advice is always get the story out of your head. Get it out. That's always the thing. You can't have anyone read anything if you never put it to paper. You know, so you definitely need to get this, right. You need to get the story out of your head and on the paper or on the device, whatever you write on.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it doesn't matter how perfect it is. It doesn't matter how great you think it isn't. That's irrelevant at this point. Because in all honesty, your story is going to be for someone. I am not writing any story I write for everyone. There is no such thing. You cannot please everyone, and nor should you be writing to please anyone. So write your story, get it on the paper, get it on the device, and then you can take the next step, because you can't take any more steps if you never get the story written.
Yeah, no, I think that is some of the best advice I've heard given on this channel so far from anybody, because you're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many writing groups I've been in where I've heard a lot about people's stories and books that they have like a page or two of.
Yep. And they just don't go any further. And it's whatever, they're stopping themselves.
Right.
There is no such thing. They're like, you know, you hear all the excuses. I don't have the time, you know, like I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, we all make time for things we like to do.
Exactly.
Whatever that is. So I don't ever want to, when everyone says to me they don't have time, I'm looking like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, make it make sense.
Like, stop, you got time.
Okay, we're going to move to my horror questions, which are kind of, you're my expert, so I'm digging in deep. So first question, what would you say would for someone who is a novice in the horror genre and horror tube world? So what separates a thriller and a suspense story from a horror story?
Thriller and suspense. Thriller definitely, in most cases, will fall under a horror banner. In most cases, it can sometimes not as well, depending on the atmosphere and what's really in the movie. When I hear thriller, in most cases, it's going to be something along the lines, if it's horror, that it's going to be a person. That's the bad guy. That's the monster in this tale. It's going to be a serial killer, possibly.
Yeah.
Or some person is just going to decide they're going to kill you. Some examples would be things like Hostel or Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
They're mutants on Wrong Turn, but they are still people that became mutated for whatever reason. Yeah. So thrillers and suspense is more like the atmosphere, how things jump out you, how things happen, like what's exciting, what's going on. That can also just be in horror. So these two things are very easily under the horror banner. Thriller definitely is. Suspense not always. But when you hear thriller, Last House on the Left is another example. Yeah. I like Last House on the Left. It's a very interesting movie, but again, it's people. To me, being the Mistress of Horror, I don't really care about, I don't find it scary with other humans attacking other humans.
Yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of scary, when I think horror, I think something I can't beat, something unimaginable, something that's going to do something to me that I'm not going to be able to understand why it would be doing this. Does it have a reason? Because humans have reasons why they do the things that they do. They usually have some kind of motive. They're getting something out of it. They're hiding something. They want something. Whatever the case may be, there's a motive. When you have something that doesn't have a motive and doesn't really need a reason to do what it's going to do to you, then that's more scarier in the end, at the end of the day, because there's no necessarily stopping it. You know, there's no police going to come. There's no that can stop it. You call the cops if you want a monster. What are they going to do?
Right.
You know, it's in the movies what happens to them.
I know they'll be the second to die.
Right. They got called and they're gone, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's the concept. So when I hear thriller and suspense or under horror, I know what I'm going to probably get. And I do like some of those, but they're not like my go-to. So the differences would be those aspects of when you hear thriller, more than likely it's not going to be something unexplainable monster per se. Sometimes you'll get a thriller that's something that's similar to a monster, like that's mutated, blah, 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 something like that. But yeah, that's the differences in most cases.
Okay. So do you see any trends in horror film or in books that you're glad is coming to an end?
One that I pray that is actually coming to an end. I haven't seen it happen in a minute. An example. There's this horror movie called Let the Right One In. It's a vampire horror. And it's, I believe it was Swedish, I believe the original place it came from. Okay. And it was brand new. Came out. Literally a year later in America, they remade it. And it was called Let Me In. So I don't like that trend where something will come out and then like a year later, in America, we're like, we remade it. You're like, the movie is brand new. It's not like it came out in 1982 and it's now 2020 and you want to remake something that hasn't got a sequel and update it.
Right.
That trend annoyed me. They did it with The Ring.
Yeah.
Because The Ring is called Ringu. Okay. And it's Japanese. And then, of course, they made the American version because, you know, trying to get people to relate to it more, but they kind of still left Japanese elements in it. So, and then they completely changed how the girl is. Like, they made her a little girl in the American version, and she wasn't really a little girl. Like, she wasn't. There's a whole story behind her. But,
okay.
Like, it's so crazy how they do that. So I'm kind of glad that trend is dying down. Please, I hope that trend is dying down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. So what makes a good horror story for you?
For me, what makes a good horror story is the unexplained. Don't tell me everything. Like, this is not fantasy. I don't need to know every little detail. That's a part of the fear that you build. The unknown. You may not know all the answers at the end of a horror story. You may not know where that monster came from, but it still scared the bejesus out of you. So that's like one of the best type of horror things to me, is not telling every single detail. Because when you write horror, that's one of the things you may want to recall, is to not give every single detail away. Because at the end of the day, if you know every detail, you're not going to think about it anymore. Yeah. But when you don't understand a thing completely, it's going to bug you a little bit. Question mark still after time, and no one may never, ever answer them. Yeah.
Ooh, that would be,
It's kind of bothersome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I like things neatly tied up at the end.
Right. And you can tie all the good things up in your story, but some things you need to leave. You don't have to say, like, this monster came from the planet Zipton because the people came from this other planet and came there and they made them go. Now, it's not sci-fi.
Right.
You don't have to explain that too much. So fantasy and sci-fi, they explain everything, and that's just how those work. With horror, you do not need to do that. You can do that. You don't need to do that. I'm just going to tell you, the ones that leave a little bit of secrets, like, you're going to remember Cthulhu and stuff forever. Like, once you get into that, you look at that, because you're not going to know why it did it. Why did it do it?
Yeah.
What did it want? Just going to tell you, what cosmic beings, it could have just had a scratch that day. You don't know.
Yeah.
And you just so happen to be in it.
What do you do about it? Yeah.
Exactly. Nothing.
Which is terrifying.
It is terrifying because it didn't want anything from you.
Right.
It didn't want anything.
You're not going to be able
to maybe make it laugh.
Right. That's creepy.
It is.
So, all right. Okay. So we kind of talked a little bit about, we alluded to this earlier because I joked in the question to you about R.L. Stine. For someone who hasn't read horror past middle grade, which I didn't read a lot of, and that's not true. I read some Stephen King stuff. I did read It, for example, after the movie. Usually after I saw a movie of his,
then you go check out the book.
I would go read the book. So I like reverse for a long time. And we'll talk about another one of his that I loved later, and the elements of that cross bleed. But what are three, so for those that have not checked out Tillery's channel, I'm going to show you what it looks like real quick right here so you can bop over and be sure and subscribe. But on your channel, you do a great job of not only showing your 5,000 books, which your mom mentioned just a minute ago in the live chat. That is pretty incredible, 5,000 books. But on your channel, you go into detail about books and films and things that you specifically recommend your audience check out. Yeah. So what would be 3 novels for someone that needs to, or says, oh, I want to know more about horror. I want to learn more about, good horror writing. What 3 novels would you tell someone to read?
Actually, I probably would lean you towards some of Stephen King's works because some of his stuff isn't going to be too overwhelming for a new person rolling into horror. Okay. So I would recommend something like, I was going to say The Shining. Originally anyway, because The Shining would be, it has horror elements, especially when the parts about the ghost and how that location was so haunted to the fact that it had its own energy. Those type of things I think could be for a person who's easing into horror for sure. I would also recommend things by Anne Rice because vampires. Now, vampires and werewolves do fall in horror, more like creature style horror, that a lot of people I think forget about. The vampires and werewolves are horror based, just because of what they are. So they just kind of fall into supernatural, but they are more horror aligned. So I would recommend.
I think that's it's like a pretty recent 2000s kind of Twilight thing that all kind of shifted.
Yeah, because people get into, because when vampires are romanticized.
Yes.
And Anne Rice is known for romanticizing vampires. Though some of her vampires in her stories can be pretty brutal.
Oh yeah.
They can be pretty brutal. So I would recommend Anne Rice, even though you can get somewhat of a romanticized version of vampires. Then I still say for a person easing in, you may not be ready for the vampires from what's that one horror movie? The one where it's in Alaska and the vampires. I did a whole video on that one. 28 days? It's not 28 days later. I keep forgetting the name of this movie all the time. But these vampires are vicious too much. They're scavenger vampires. There's a name for that.
Right. Well, this sounds like Van Helsing.
So those similar things. So Dracula, those type of things. Dracula, depending on which version of Dracula, then you could get a little bit more of a violent vampire. But Anne Rice's vampires, by no stretch of the word, are not violent because they are. But they're ease in for you. And then as far as werewolves, I would again go to Stephen King for Silver Bullet. So that's well known. Also, it's easy for someone to ease into who's not used to horror, because there's some pretty scary werewolf based stories out there. So
no doubt. You can read some gay erotica, the shifter fiction, you'll find some things like,
listen, I've read some, so yes.
All right, so what are 3 horror films that you'd say, try this to get into horror?
I would go to psychological horror, probably Ghost Story. That's an older film that has a woman who was killed because they were like these friends who liked her, and they kind of found her, like all these guys found her attractive. It was probably like maybe 4 friends or whatever, and they came over her house one night, and this is like 50s, maybe 50s setting possibly, and they came over her house, and then she knew the one guy liked her. She actually was going to sleep with him, but he couldn't perform. But she didn't tell his friends that, and he bragged to his friends kind of sort of like they have had sex, and they did not. And when they came over her house, and they kind of was like, hey, you guys did blah blah blah, and she was looking at him like, what happened? So she didn't take kindly to that, so she started dancing with all of them. He was getting jealous and upset. So they try to like, oh, we need to go, whatever. But an accident happens while they're there, and she falls and bumps her head on the end of the table.
Okay.
They think she's dead. One of them is a doctor.
Oh.
I say he was a student.
Yeah.
Because he obviously didn't feel her heartbeat.
Right.
So they panic because they're rich guys. They're
course.
like, you know, they got tired, they got families, is rich, blah, blah, blah. So they put her in a car. They drive the car into the lake. At the last minute, as the car is going down, they see her come up at the back of the car like this. And they're like, no, we didn't see that. We didn't see that. Oh, we saw that. So the guy who's in love with her tries to run into the water to get to the car, but it's like those old-timey black cars, like it's gone. Yeah. Those things were made out of real stuff.
Yep.
Gone to the bottom. That's it. So they don't tell anybody. She comes back for a haunting. As you do. But they have children. His son looks like him. He has 2 sons. They're twins. So you know what she does. But her haunting is she physically is there. Her hate so much to this point, she's manifested herself physically, looking the same, still pretty, desirable, everybody want. And then they both get in a relationship with her. They pay real quick. And then like she's kind of like does weird stuff. She'd be laughing. Like when she got in a relationship with him, she starts laughing like in the middle of the bed. And he's like looking like, what?
Oh yeah, I would like
she's like, I want to watch your eyes till the lights go out and things like that. So he's like, what's going on? Okay, we breaking up. And she's like, you don't know anything like that. And then then her real self comes out, and then it's this whole like, you know, so like she gets her revenge and stuff like that. But it's a really good one. Like you need to check it out. So that's one of the ones I would ease people into. It's a ghost story, a good ghost story. Another one, I would pick another werewolf movie. You can actually watch Silver Bullet physically. It's good, scary werewolf horror, but it's like not as, it could be worse, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah.
And then vampire movies, I would recommend Subspecies, which I've recommended on my channel. It's a vampire tale. It has a little bit of the scavenger style vampires in it, who like do blood all over their face all the time. Right. And then they have a really cool main character, so it kind of eases you into like vampire stuff, tough vampires versus like romanticized type of thing.
Right. Aphrodite says that's easing. I know. She's like just the tip, but so now Stephen King is really well known for horror. So I wrote this to you in a question, but as a little guy, I remember watching Misery the first time and being terrified, and then I wanted to read the book because I was kind of like, oh wait, it's a book. So read the book. So here's my question. So like, is it horror, or because she's not like, it's not like a demon possession or whatever. Like it's that old it's like we were saying where it's like a human. Yeah. That's the
villain here. Yeah. Well, the thing is about that, it's just going into like thriller. I think they categorize it under thriller, suspense, horror. I think it's like thriller, horror, suspense, or something like that. Yeah. Which it is very thriller based because of the whole setting. But it is horror. It's just, to me, it's lighter horror. It's not like more horror. Yeah, it's not. It's horror, but it's like it's lighter side of horror, as far as like human based horror, I call it. You know, because it's going to be a person like, okay, we know what she does in Misery, and you know, like, okay, kidnapping, and there's going to be mutilation, things like that. But it's like it is scary to a lot of people because it can happen for real. So you have people on this side of the fence is like, well, this could happen for real, so this is more scarier. I'm like, but you don't know that the other thing could happen. Right. You're just hoping that those types of creatures and monsters and apparitions and things won't happen to you. Right. You don't have any proof that they're not real. So you're sitting like, I don't have to worry about something that's not real. Like, okay, sure. But if like something cosmic being happened, then you can do nothing. Right. That lady that attacked you, if you had maybe not gone to the store, or maybe if you had, you know, had security because it's your fan or something, or, you know, you could escape, or you carried a weapon on you.
Right. 4-wheel drive. I think it's a snowstorm. Like,
right?
that all-
Four-wheel drive, that would help. So
Good
those
answer.
instances,
Okay.
it wouldn't matter
Right.
if you had a gun.
Right.
It wouldn't matter if you had a knife. It wouldn't matter if you had security guards. It wouldn't matter if you had four-wheel drive.
Right.
It wouldn't have helped you in these cases of monsters. Because let's take Yetis.
Yeah.
Let's take Bigfoot.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good Bigfoot scary movies out there, and those are under like monster creature horror.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if people had four-wheel drive.
That's true.
It didn't matter that they had a weapon.
That's true.
Those things are so strong. What are you going to do when they bite down into your neck?
Right.
Like,
right.
You can't fight that off. This lady who kidnapped you, you possibly could fight her off.
Right.
These are possibilities that you don't have with the monsters. This is why I find this other stuff more scarier and under like deeper horror. I mean, there's layers of horror, obviously, to deal with, but I think that the human-based horror, which is under thriller a lot of time with suspense, those things, and even psychological, because we do have psychological horrors, and I've written some that it's all in the mind. It's not really happening, and it's mind-based. So that can be scary too, because you don't know if it's real or not.
Right.
And in some psychological horror, it actually is real and happening, and you're like, whoa, what? It's mostly just to get the person watching or reading you having a psychological issue at this point because you didn't know what was going on.
Right, right. No, that reminds me of like, I think his name's John Cusack. He did a movie a number of years ago where he's in like a motel. He's like a little he pulls into a motel, and then he interacts with like 10 or 12 different people to wait out this storm. And you find at the end, he's all of them. Like,
yep, I seen that one, of course.
All of it is in his mind. So that's technically horror then?
Yeah, it would be more like psychological. Horror
to I love that kind of story. Like anytime I see that kind of story, I'm always stuck.
Yeah, psychological horror. When I did my video about my five favorite types of horror, psychological horror is one of those. Rather it is cosmic or not.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So this is my last one on horror before we're going to get into our rapid fire. What is something happening on HorrorTube that you're excited about?
Oh, wow. I'm just going to say there's two channels that I love that I'm very obsessed with. Maiden of the Evening Tide. Love her channel. Listen, if you don't know anything about horror, you definitely need to check this out. Like, she has like detailed interviews with people involved with things. Like, she has this Dracula series about vampires like that. She has interviews with people. Like, it's just amazing. So definitely love her channel. Like, always happenings going with her. Very good information. And the other one is Harpies in the Trees. She did the creepy reads for my short story. Like, her content is awesome. Like, whenever she says that she's going to do a creepy read or she has something to put up about something, like HorrorTube for those two, like that's just like my go-to.
Okay.
Sure. And there's always things going on HorrorTube, like new information, especially if you're people who are interested in horror. HorrorTube is the place to be. Period.
Seriously, I mean, it was something I only really know about through your channel.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so much
sent to other people. I've kind of been like, wow, that's
it's deep. Yeah, it's a lot going on.
All right, well, the time has come for my favorite part. It is time for our rapid fire. I'm going to catch up on comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. I'll do a parody and call myself Stephanie Queen. Chiller thriller, The Unknown. Oh, I love John Cusack. Me too. Psychological thriller. Love her. She knows her stuff.
Yes, she does.
Yes. As much as I do not read or watch horror, I love HorrorTube. I'm gonna have to check it out more because, like I said, that creepy read of your story.
Yeah, she's good. Harpies and Trees is awesome. Like that, I was impressed. I was like, wow, this is. I was just laughing.
Oh, it was crazy.
And when she did the louder, I was like,
well, and then you had like the sound, like the door opening and footsteps.
Right, and the way she did the loudest voiceover, I was cracking up.
Voiceover of the. Yeah.
I was like, wow, girl, good job, though.
Yes, I was like, you are scary. And I feel sorry for your boyfriend. That's a scary voice. If you're laying in bed and you're mad at him and you're like,
I know, right? Nightmares for
like, Ricky did that to me. I just jump out of bed and be terrified. Okay. So it is time for our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
So the only thing here, get to know you, no gotcha. Your shortest answer possible. So fewest amount of words. All right. Here we go. What is your biggest fear?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay. I like that. What is your greatest accomplishment?
My daughter.
Oh, I love that. Where do you feel most at home?
At my home.
Okay.
Very much so comfortable.
Where are you most inspired?
On my bed with my tablet.
Interesting. What's your favorite sin?
Ooh, my favorite sin. Ooh, that might be a little too erotic for your channel.
You can just say lust.
Yeah, lust, definitely.
What sin are you most willing to forgive?
Mostly any sin, I think, is forgivable.
Same. I would say gluttony because I'm like,
listen,
I'm never
forgive that.
I'm never mad at buffalo chicken dip.
That's right. Keep going.
Keep bringing it. All right. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Ooh, guilty pleasure, cheesecake.
Oh, this is funny. What is your favorite word?
Do it.
Okay. What is your favorite book? Because you have 5,000, so good luck. One, go.
1,000 Orcs by R.A. Salvatore.
Oh, I thought it'd be hard. I thought you'd struggle. Okay, wow.
Oh, no. Fantasy. He's my favorite writer. He has a special shelf and characters and everything with it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, if you could win an Olympic medal for any sport, real or fake, what would it be?
Figure skating.
Oh, okay. If you could spend a day in someone else's shoes, who would it be and why?
Ooh, who would it be? Wow. I think I would actually want to spend, and people are going to think, oh, this is weird, H.P. Lovecraft, because I want to see what was in his mind when he's creating things, and I heard a lot about why he wrote those stories, and there's a lot of controversy about where he came up from them, and I'd want to see inside his head what made him feel those things, think those things, because he's a writer, and he turned those thoughts into a story, as far as we all know.
Right.
So you don't ever really know a person until you've been inside their head and what they saw, what made them think of those things. So as a writer, and him being prominent in the writing type of writing I do, I am curious, because he's left a staple and he's long gone, so we can't ask him.
Yeah.
So I would be quite curious as to, what he thought of those things. And then being a woman of color being in his head, I'm not sure how much he would like that or not. So that would be another.
I love everything about that.
Type of thing.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Like, girl, you're not ready, but keep your head up. You'll make it.
Keep doing you. What does success mean to you?
I think, to me, success is doing what I love to do. If I'm able to do what I love to do, the money and of some people, in some cases, some people's fame, those things can come or not. But if I'm doing what I love to do, then that's success to me.
Yeah, I love that answer. What quality or virtue do you value most in the people you spend time with?
Honesty.
At what job would you be terrible?
I'm not sure there's such a job.
Wow, okay. If you could only use 3 adjectives to describe yourself, what would they be? I know, for writers, it's hard. It's like, of all the words, you can only pick 3.
I'm not sure I'm going to pick adjectives here, but I'm going to pick confident, strong, determined.
Yeah, those are great ones. And I think they fit you well.
Yep, that's what I know.
Yeah. What is a dream you've yet to achieve?
A dream I've yet to achieve is the home that I want to have built. That's a dream I haven't yet to achieve, but I'm working on it.
Okay. And for those of you that want to see it being built, go to Stewie's channel. And he's got a whole series of videos that you can watch, which is ultra fascinating.
This is true.
If you were told you had to change your name, what would you change it to?
Actually, I am planning on changing my name.
Oh.
So that's an easy question.
Okay.
Freya Ravenwood.
I love that.
My daughter's name is Feora Chiyoko Ravenwood. I gave her her own name, last name. She does not have my last name or her father's.
Right.
I figure, that whole thing of carrying on someone else's name. I thought about how about the other way around? I give her her name and then I take her name.
Yeah.
So, and I don't really have anything against my name, Danette. But it's not the name I chose. My mother had everything to do with that.
Yeah.
Her name is Lynette, so she kind of like made us rhyme, Lynette and Danette.
Yeah.
Both are British names.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to pick my own name. So Freya, and my daughter's name Feora is a derivative of Freya, the goddess Freya. So I love the name Freya. So that's like one day, definitely Freya Ravenwood. And that's actually my pen name for writing children's books, which I actually have written 2 children's books, but they have yet to be published.
That makes sense because you're writing for her. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Last rapid fire. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
If past lives were real, what was one of yours?
Actually, I am quite sure that I have experienced past life deja vus and have dreamed them as well. I do believe in reincarnation and past life. But I believe I've been alive a few times, and in one that I can kind of recall or dreamed, I was a witch, and not the good kind. So I went a little too far in my magic, down the wrong road, and let's say some people paid for it, and so did I in the end. So
magic always has a cost.
Yes, it does. So magic kind of, even to this day in my head, and I have a certain kind of feeling with, like I have, of course, in my collection, there are magic books. There are books about magic spells. There are things, but I kind of shy away from it because of those deja vu and those dreams that I had of past life of being the not so good witch that didn't do her craft correctly.
My story is not going to be for you. Okay, well, those are my prepared questions. Those are my rapid questions. So let's move over to some live chat stuff and see what you've been missing, because they have been blowing us up since
yes
the questions. So let's see. I tried to watch the whole thing. Let's see, where are we? As much as I do not read or watch horror, I love HorrorTube. Oh, she's talking about the gal who read
the creepy reads. Yeah, her daddy wasn't making it through. I mean, she just read the story and she was having nightmares.
Terrifying. I was terrified. I agree with that 100%. Cheesecake would have been, I guess, the call.
My guilty pleasure.
Yes, the guilty.
I love me some cheesecake. Listen, Walmart got this cheesecake that's whipped cheesecake, and you get from the bakery. It's dangerous. Like if you get it, it's a medium size. You're going to eat it all yourself. I'm just telling you. Get a spoon. It's over.
My husband lives for cheesecake. It is the only thing I don't like.
Tell Ricky he needs to go to Walmart and he needs to go in the bakery section. And there's this one. He'll be able to tell.
Okay.
It looks like they took one of those dessert bags and they dropped it in all in a circle because it's completely whipped and has a little bit of ginger. Graham cracker crust at the bottom and a little bit sprinkled on top. It's just not right. It should not have been made.
All right. I will have to tell him about that. He's going to go off his rocker. Christmas Carol, Lynette Tillery says, what? I'm not sure what we were saying what to. Uneven parallel bar. Oh, that's probably the Olympic question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Katy Perry, because she's sleeping with my Orlando Bloom.
One of her many boyfriends.
Glad you're not upset about it. Money. He would not. LOL. Just do it. That's what I thought of when you said do it. Completion. Exactly. Honesty. Creative, smart, loyal. Yeah, actually, those would fit you too. 100%. Marrying Orlando Bloom. Boy, I'm sensing a theme. I like my name. I like your name too. It's archaic. Passing down the last names are not my thing. Yeah. I wonder if that's not going to change some.
Yes, you hear my mother in the background. She's very loud.
Good for her. Living her best life, and I love it.
She is.
I am here for it. I remember being an island girl who died very young, either drowning or a big fish. I remember it vividly.
That's why you're scared of aquatic creatures. Listen.
Right. That's where that comes from. Hello. OMG. I took a 2-hour nap and totally missed this. That's okay. That's okay.
Replay.
We don't judge. There's a replay. I hear her, LOL. Hi, and my girl crush, Hiya. I swear I will watch the replay. Danny, forgive me. Barrett, forgive me. No worries. You
Fine, sweetie.
get it. Big mouth, like her granny.
I will agree. I will agree.
Hi, Aphrodite. Hey. Satin made it. And Danny, you look beautiful as always. Okay, chat.
Thank
Do you have any questions for DL Tillery? If not, I'm going to move into my backup questions.
Yeah, what you guys got for me? You got anything? Let's hear them.
So kind of talk to me about the Twitch thing. So you're going to do it kind of like an announcement so we all go and follow at the same time. Yeah,
I'm going to do an announcement. It's definitely going to be May.
Okay.
I like to prepare everything. I've upgraded my setup and everything for that. But yeah, so it'll be kind of like we'll be over on Twitch. I'll be playing a video game, but I'll be talking and chatting with you all while I'm playing. So it's kind of like a hangout thing. Everyone likes to do it these days. So I figure, like, you like playing video games? Why not? You know?
Might as well.
Why not?
So, about the book, your book.
Yes.
So you're self-pubbing.
Yes.
Have you already got your cover and everything?
Oh, yes. I can't. Listen. It's so hard. It's so hard not to show it.
I was gonna say, like, when are you doing like cover reveal and things?
So I plan to do the cover reveal. I'm thinking around, because we're talking about October, so August, September, October. So I'm thinking around August, late July, August. I'm going to do a cover reveal. Because I wanted to make sure, because it's in alpha stage still right now. So I did a fun thing. I put a TikTok video up about what happened, because I have a TikTok too. But I put a TikTok video up about I was sending my alphas the wrong version. So little writer world issues. Yes, it was bad. So I had to resend them. At least they only got about 9 chapters in. It's only about 15 or 16 chapters, mind you. So I was quite distraught. So I sent them the new version. So I actually picked up another alpha during that time. So I have 3 alphas. Aphrodite is one of them, and they are rereading. So I sent them the first 5 chapters. Yeah, I know, it's so funny. Sent them the 5 chapters.
That's my greatest fear. Anytime you have a CP or a beta or whatever, it's always that I'll grab the wrong file.
And I did. I had a senior moment. What can I do?
Totally. Well, and then when they read it, it's like, hey, so would you mind reading that again?
Right. And I felt bad. I was like, look, if you don't want to, but some things might not make sense to you, because I did add a little bit of stuff. You know what I mean? But I mean, I also, while we're waiting for anybody to do any questions, I could talk about a thing that I talked about on my channel, my first editor.
Yes.
That was a bit of a nightmare, just a little bit. Just a little bit, because she didn't turn out the way that I hoped it had turned out. But, you know, you don't always mesh as an editor and a writer. Doesn't always happen, especially the first one. But, like, she felt more like a alpha reader, or I want to say a beta reader. Not even an alpha reader, because Aphrodite is like one of the best alpha readers I've ever come across. And I was not getting that. Because if I got that, at least I would have felt like I paid what I paid, and I got what I paid for.
Yeah.
So I just felt like she was too in herself to read my book. I paid for a critique.
She was a freelance?
She works for a company too, and she does editing professionally. She's on the internet. Anybody can look her up. She did not fit me. I'm not going to say she doesn't fit anybody else. I'm not going to say she doesn't edit anybody else's book well, but it did not turn out well for me in the end. Not when I got another editor to look at it after the fact, and they found plenty of just basic editor issues.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what they're there for.
Her critique edit was completely a waste of money. And I was kind of mad about that, because if I paid you for a critique edit and you don't mention the main character enough to me during the critique edit, I'm going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like she was more in the mindset that she's kind of in the setting of, you know, about the female lead, because there's Cagliostro and there's Allison, and they're the 2 somewhat leads in the story. So she seemed to be more into Allison, which would be fine, but you're not a beta reader. I'm paying you for a critique of the entire book.
Yeah.
And I felt that I didn't get that. Like she rushed through it. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't even bother messaging her back after I'd gone through everything because I felt it's pointless. If this is how she critiques, if this is how she edits, me telling her such would do me no good. I already paid her. That's her services. That's the best she can do. So I just won't have you work with me anymore.
Right.
So that's just pretty much how I am with that type of service. So I looked for another editor. I found another editor. She is definitely a million times better. So hopefully our relationship will continue after she does the editing for Cagliostro. But it was like an experience. You don't know. Even if the person has good ratings, even if they seem like she ran a test on like a couple pages, it seemed okay. Yeah. But as it got further and it just was not. Some of the things that, editors ask you questions in your file when they give it to you. But one of the things that she talked about in the edit was irrelevant. It was more personal. Her personal kind of feeling on the sentence. It wasn't like my sentence was wrong, and if it had been, she could have corrected. She's an editor,
right?
Her read to it was kind of like, no, this. Oh, come on, Mr. She missed a typo in the first paragraph. Yes, she did. I guess I'm being somewhat too nice, but she rushed it.
Yeah.
That's what I feel happened. So I would like to say to other writers, you don't know. You're not going to know always, even if the person has good reviews, even if I checked her out. I researched her. I read some of the books that she edited. It's just that she did not do well with mine. I don't know if she does my genre. So it wasn't that. You just don't know sometimes. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I have learned through doing these interviews and talking to authors, a lot of people who are happy with their editors, it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They find somebody, somebody finds somebody who works well and passes the name to this person and then that's how it happens. Nana asked you one that we kind of answered, so we can give her the quick answer. What is your all-time favorite horror movie and book?
One of my all-time favorite horror movies, I mentioned The Thing. You must watch it if you haven't seen it. Like, you must. Oh, and it's called The Cellar Dweller.
Cellar Dweller?
Ooh, yes, that's a good film. Ooh,
okay.
Yes.
Put that one out there. Now she wants to know, what's your greatest fear?
I don't really have any fears. Like, that's the thing. Like, I literally tried to sit there and think about it before. Like, what am I afraid of? I don't really have anything.
Okay. What would you consider your greatest horror fear of the writing process?
Ooh, the writing process, editing. Like, that's easy. Like,
yeah. Like,
if I have to ever do that, it'd be
great, right? Hand it off to somebody. Y'all do this. Let me know when it's done. What was your first experience with horror that made you want to write in that genre? I didn't ask you that.
My first experience that made me want to write in that genre. That actually came later. I mean, I was in love with horror and everything. I think my first, actually, wow, that's a great question. It was a video game.
Huh.
And that was called Eternal Darkness.
Okay.
And that came out when I probably was about, until you're getting old, you can't remember what age you were when something happened. Right, so I'm thinking early 20s because it was the GameCube and Eternal Darkness. I covered that actually on my channel too. Eternal Darkness. It's a cosmic horror video game, and yes, the story is amazing and elaborate, and it really will. It's a nice icebreaker for people who don't understand how cosmic horror works because it goes into some really interesting concepts of it. It's psychological. It actually messes with the player. You'll be playing the game, and then all of a sudden your character's head will explode, and then it'll blink and like, oh, game over. But that didn't really happen, and it pops you back into the game. So it's very elaborate, especially for its time. It was well ahead of its time. So if anyone didn't play that, they totally check it out. I'm going to have to play it on my Twitch channel.
Interesting. Okay, I love that. What is the best tip you would give a new horror writer?
My best tip, and not just for writers, as I gave that tip, would be hold something back. Definitely hold something back on your villain, whatever your villain is. Don't tell every single detail. And, as writers, we're told that, make sure that you close all them doors up. Don't be leaving them holes, at the end. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if your creature came from a planet far, far away you don't have to mention that.
Yeah.
If, let's say, Billy was walking one day in the woods and then the creature in your story crawled up out the ground, Billy knows, oh, okay, this isn't normal, and he's gonna run off or whatever the story would be. You don't have to say, oh, and by the way, this creature came from the planet blah blah blah. You don't have to mention that. So that's an example of holding something back, because where the heck did this thing come from? A good example of this would be Cloverfield horror movie.
Yeah,
it's found footage. We don't know what the heck this thing is. These things are
Blair Witch.
Right, they're killing everybody. I love found footage horror films. They're like so good.
Yes.
You don't know what's happening, but it's happening.
I know.
You know?
And it feels submersive, right? It feels
yes.
Like I'm in it, you know.
You're in it. So I love found footage horror. Like now I'm gonna have to go watch Cloverfield tonight now.
All right. So Nana's asking some specific writer questions. Nana, I'm gonna play on your questions real quick. Novel Nana and I have been working together on a couple of her contest submissions, and they are horror. Or I would say she writes in your vein. So and I'm editing for her, and I don't read in the genre. So weakness number one. But question. So on the not reveal too much, if you're writing psychological horror, does the same rule apply? For example, let me give you an example. She did a contest piece for Kent Sean's contest about a month ago. And in that one, it's a mother-daughter relationship that is psychological horror. So you can imagine, awful.
Yes.
So if it's that sort of situation, and it's not like a creature, or it's not something existential, does the same rule apply to kind of hold back, or do you want to give the context of like how that person got there, or like what corrupted them, or does that important?
I would say in that setting, in my personal opinion, hold it to the end.
Okay.
In my opinion, good psychological horror, you're going to lose a few notches with me if you let it out mid-story or before the end that this person okay, let's say it's different types of psychological horror. So as an example, psychological horror, that something be going down and this person just doesn't know what's happening. They're losing their mind, essentially. We find out near the end. But they should not realize this until the end. If they ever realize it, you should know, in my opinion, till the end. So I wrote a short story. Right. You should, there should be because I wrote a real quick, I don't know, call it flash fiction, horror fiction. I don't know what you would call it, but I wrote a short that is just like kind of thing that I would put on my website. I haven't released it, but I'll tell you about it. I wrote a short about a woman where she is in her house. She has her dog, and she's like planning to take the dog for a walk. So her husband is home, and she says something to him like he's in the other room. So she's going to take the dog for a walk, and she's talking to the dog, and she's talking to her friend on the phone before she leaves. And she was like, oh, I really, really miss him, or something like that. So then she leaves the house to walk the dog. So she walks the dog, and they go, around the neighborhood, and then they're coming back. On the way back, ambulance blare by her. Like, it's really quick. And then she's like, okay, what's going on? So then she gets back to the house, and there's the ambulance are at her house. She's like, what's going on? Like, she thinking something happened to her husband. Like, what's going on, So she goes and tries to go towards the house, and then a stretcher comes out. And then, like, it's bloody, and then a hand falls from the side of the stretcher, and she notices her husband's hand. He has the ring on it. So she's like, oh, my God, freaking out now. And the little dog, he's barking and stuff. And then, the cops and ambulance are there. But then, as she goes to run towards the stretcher, she comes out the house with two cops holding her by each side.
So she's watching herself.
At this point, you realize it. So I'm summarizing because she does go through the house and doing this stuff, blah, blah, blah.
That's a great
So
twist.
She comes out the house and she's like, I just wanted a piece of him. And like in her hand, she's holding like his ear, So, and then like her mind just goes like breaks, and then it changes scene, and she's in like a rubber room pretty much.
Yeah.
and she's just like rocking back and forwards on the floor, and she has like this necklace with his ear, like they could not get away from her. So to keep her sane, they let her keep it. So she had wearing his ear, like, I just wanted a piece of him. So the whole moral of it, like her husband was going to leave her, she wasn't going to have it.
About Ricky cutting my ear off all night.
So she's like, you know, she didn't want him to leave her, so she had a psychological break. She just kills him, and then she has that piece. So the name of that story is called A Piece of You. So so it's just like a wraparound type of thing. Like she didn't realize she was having a psychological break until the end of the short, you know? Right. So to me, when you write a psychological horror, this should not be obvious to the reader or watcher of his film that this is really happening. Even if they know they looked up psychological horror and they're looking at the movie, they shouldn't be like realizing if this is really happening or this is not happening, you know? Right. So that to me would be good psychological horror, because it's going to psychologically give you a break as much as possible.
Got you. Okay. So in this piece, this piece that I was helping her with, this sounds similar. See if we hit these beats right. Yeah. So her story is a mother-daughter. They belong to a Christian fundamentalist church, like think the most extreme you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Right. And so this daughter is basically a captive of her mother. Yeah. Who's starving her because gluttony, right? Goes through the sins.
Of course.
So you flash forward to the end of the story, and the girl is offered a treat, a grilled cheese, a treat at the restaurant, which her mother only lets her eat bone broth. So, you know, that's a no-no, but she's done it in front of the restaurant. So like the girl's like, I want it. So the reveal at the end is like, the person who treats that girl has something physically taken from her body, and then the girl is forced to eat it.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
And it was brilliant. Like the reveal is the last 3 lines. That's one thing I'll say for Beth.
That's the withhold. That's the withhold technique.
The last 3 lines always. I mean, these last 2 have been 800 words or less. Yep. And those last 3 lines, I'm always like, oh, gut punch. Didn't see that coming.
Right. And then, see, she knows what she's doing, because you withhold. You're going to remember that. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
Totally. Like, I will never eat a French fry again. Like, I needed to quit eating French fries. So
there you go.
Win-win. Like, did it for me.
But so that's good. That's done well.
Like the hold back is the key.
Yes, and that's done very well. And actually, I would like to go back to one of the other things that you had asked me when you said about what to help ease people into horror.
Yeah,
I think zombie horror would be one of those.
Okay.
Because it's gruesome.
Yeah,
but it's also still like they're people, but then they're no longer people.
Right. Well, and sometimes they're funny, right? Sometimes
you can watch the comedy ones. The comedy ones will really ease you in. Yeah. I love the comedy ones. And one of my favorite ones is a romance one, Warm Bodies.
Oh, I haven't even heard of it. Okay.
Oh my God, Warm Bodies is so good.
Okay. All right. Warm Bodies. Okay. I ain't fooling with you people.
Night of the Living Dead. Yes.
Done. Night of the Living Dead.
I would recommend 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later.
So I know the idea of this story. It's like a nuclear fallout story, right? Or something like that, like a big event that then the zombies happen.
Yes. So zombie apocalypse and zombie breakouts can happen in any kind of way. They happen different types of ways. There are different versions of zombies, like I Am Legend with Will Smith. That one is a type of zombie horror, but it's more like super rabies. But I would think 28 Days Later is closer to the love of the rabies thing, but it is zombie, because if you get any of the blood from these zombies on you, insta turn. Like if you get in your wounds, like one part, the father that's in the story with the other people, a drop of blood drops right in the corner of his eye because he was angry about something, because they just wasn't getting where they need to be and they were just trying to escape, and he got upset and he hit something and it knocked a zombie body from up above, and then the blood from I think a crow or something, a bird dripped in his eye, because it can affect animals too. And it dripped in his eye. And he was like, told his daughter to stay back like that. He was like rubbing his eye. Instant turn, automatically try to kill her and eat her. Like it's instant. Like 28 days later is gruesome and crazy. Like definitely check out 28 Days Later, and 28 Weeks Later is like the sequel.
Interesting. Okay. Nana, okay, so Nana asked some questions. Nana, the other 2 questions you asked, we've answered, or we asked earlier on. So watch those in the replay. But this one we didn't ask. Did you ever watch Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Creep Show, or Twilight?
Oh, yes. Love Elvira. I love Morticia from Addams Family. I actually love them all of myself after them. I love them. And Twilight Zone, and another one is Tales from the Dark Side. I grew up watching Tales from the Dark Side and the Twilight Zone. Tales from the Dark Side is amazing. Like, oh, and another one that's compilations of shorts, Monsters. Back when I was a kid, they had, it always opens with like the monster family, and they're eating crispy critters, and they go to bite the crispy critters. Awesome shows.
Well, there's one that I told you about that I think you'd like, especially if you like that kind of like instant turn zombie. So, and I was telling you about it. It's a TV show, but they remade Van Helsing, where it's a female Van Helsing.
Yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah,
and it is like, the twist about the show that I love is it's like zombie vampires. I mean, they're not. It's not zombie, but it is that way in that the goal is to like turn as many as possible, right?
Yes.
And there are like scavenger vampires, like you described, and then there are like these crazy rabid vampires that are like beasts that just don't even know they're killing.
Yes, there's so many classes of vampires. So yeah, definitely, that's awesome. I like it. It
was good, and I mean, it's gory. Like there is so much blood in this.
That's the way to go. Oh, and that I remember the name of that vampire film, 30 Days of Night.
30 Days of Night. Okay, cool.
It's Alaska. You know, the sun goes down. They are ready. They're just destroying this whole village of people. They're scavengery. They're terrible looking vampires. They're not like flower based at all.
Okay. All right. Tales from the Crypt. Yes or
yes. Okay. Tales from the Crypt is amazing.
Agreed. Outer Limits.
Love Outer Limits.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
Now, okay, here's a question. Is he considered horror? Like, because it's, I guess Psycho, right, is definitely horror.
It's a type of horror that's going to fall under like thriller, like with killers and stuff. And I actually, like I said, I write those too. I have a horror compilation that I'm going to put out of all of shorts that I have. Okay. And one of the short stories in there is a serial killer.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, good. Let's see. What was the first horror movie you ever saw in theaters?
Ooh, first saw in theaters. I'm quite sure the first one I saw in theaters had to be Friday the 13th. I'm quite sure. Had to be one of the Friday the 13th.
Ooh, spooky. Nana can't wait to read it. Aphrodite somewhere in a corner. Van Helsing, yes, watched every season. 30 Days of Night was the last commissioned horror doll I did a few years back. Those vampires are wicked. Yes,
they are.
30 Days of Night. Colin Clark, for those that don't know, check out his YouTube channel. He's also an artist. So and check out Colin's channel as well as the novel Nana and Aphrodite Lee, who joined us today. What about Carrie or The Exorcist? The Exorcist is set in my hometown, y'all. I hope y'all.
What? Oh, yes, it was. That's right.
Yeah. St. Louis.
I love Carrie, but they had another version of Carrie come out that was I like better than the original Carrie. And I did like the original Carrie, but the ending is different.
Okay. So wait, did they change like the one with Mia Farrow, like the old school one? Like that wasn't the ending in the book, or it was different?
It was more questionable in the book. So the other one, Stephen King, had more to do with the other one that came out later. No one knows. You don't know if Carrie died there.
Right.
Carrie didn't necessarily die in that house. In the other version, she doesn't really die. She just disappears.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I liked that better. And yes, of course, Exorcist. Like,
yeah.
How could you not? Possession.
Yeah, and y'all, that one, like, there is.
The Lost Boys, yes, vampire.
There is an entire floor at St. Louis University that is still not open to this day because the boy that book is about, because it was about a boy who was originally The Exorcist was about. Yep. But the boy was on that floor, and they tried to take care of those demons there, and they still don't let anyone on that floor. And there's a hospital here, same thing. That there's a
Yep.
of the hospital that's still closed. I mean, it's
a lot of possession stories out there of exorcisms and stuff, and the church being involved. And then a lot of times now they don't really want to even sanction, you know, any of the priests to go to do exorcisms. When people request them, they still request them, and they'd be like, no, we don't want to get involved. You know?
Right. Here's a good question. Which version of Amityville did you enjoy? And I won't be mad if you say the one with Ryan Reynolds. So,
of course, who wouldn't like the one with Ryan Reynolds, because it's Ryan Reynolds, like he's sexy. But like, I know, right?
Hey, I'm right here.
I do like the old Amityville as well. Like I just love the Amityville series. Like I do like those. There was a movie that I always think about when I think of, it's called House. It's an old movie. And it's kind of like the house itself is like an entity, and it's really good. You should look it up. Like it's called House, and it's some crazy stuff go down in there.
Gotcha. Nana, you're right. It is Sissy Spacek. I was thinking Mia Farrow because I just watched her new horror documentary that's about her relationship with Woody Allen. And if you haven't watched that horror story, watch it.
Oh, good Lord. I'm sure that is scary.
It leaves you with all kinds of sick feelings. Because he was claustrophobic, so he won't leave to go get help. Oh, she's talking about her characters. I do not play demonic, especially with kids. Yeah. This is Ryan. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. There's a British TV series called Being Human about werewolves. Oh, I've watched this. I think on Netflix. I love this show.
Yes. Now I watched the American version. I mean, it's still going to be under horror because of werewolves, vampires, ghosts.
Gotcha. Okay.
But and people start thinking more supernatural, paranormal would be the word for these things, but they forget that those are actual horror, like, you know, things. They still are horror things. So yes, I watched the American version of Being Human, and then later heard about that it was a British show originally. Be honest with you, I preferred the American one, and this rarely ever happens with me, of me preferring a like remake or another version of something that originally came from. And the reason why is because in Britain they have not as much problem with this changing characters mid-series or something like that. We kind of like frown upon that in the US a lot more. Yeah. So the fact that happened in Being Human, they do it a lot easier in British stuff. You know, I guess look at Doctor Who. I'm very particular about which Doctor Who's I like.
Me too.
And I'm not okay with just any Doctor Who. You know, some of the fans of Doctor Who say that. They're like, who cares? It's Doctor Who. I'm like, it's not David Tennant. Exactly. And it's not, I forget the other dude's name who was like the guy who was kind of bigger. Like he was before David Tennant, I believe. And those are my two favorite doctors, and I don't really care for the other ones. And I kind of didn't watch. I own the ones with them in it, and those are the ones I really like. I really love me some David Tennant though. But like, you know, like he needs to stop. But like Being Human, I liked Being Human because I liked the guy who was the vampire because he actually played a Star Wars character in a video game. He was actually the guy from that. So that's how I knew who he was. That's why I watched the show.
Gotcha.
But it was really good. But this show got on my nerves near the end of the series. But again, if it's about vampires, ghosts, and werewolves, if it's anything with werewolves, I'm going to check it out because werewolves get a bad rap. Like they don't make enough werewolf stuff.
Concur. Colin Clark says House is good. House 2 not so good.
Agree.
Okay. I love when places have a mind. Me too. That gives me
interesting
feelings. Yeah. Being Human is my jam. British version. Oh, she disagreed with you. British version was the best.
I know. A lot of people say that.
What is your favorite and least favorite horror trope? That's a great question. I didn't ask that one. Thank you.
Now with me and tropes, I haven't really ever done a video on this, but like I really can't stand the word trope. Like I don't because I'm kind of like, I think you can write whatever you want in your stuff. And people are like, well, you know, this is a trope because it's been done so many times. And, you know, people should try to stray away from this at this point. And I'm like, so I really don't find anything a trope too much. It's just that it's something that occurred in your story and that's what you like. You know what I mean? Like some people be like, you know, that insta love trope, I really don't like that. Or like in horror, I'd be like, you know, the trope where the girl falls down.
Or the gay guy killed first.
Or the black guy killed first or something like that. You know, but guess what? There was one horror movie back in the day that was well ahead of its time. Is it Demon Night? Not Demon Night. What is it? It's a series. This is not Demon Night. Demon Night is the one from Tales from the Crypt. But the female lead is like, she's a goth. That's why I really liked her.
Yeah.
And she's a witch kind of setting, but she gets possessed by a demon. And in the first one, there's this black kid in it. And, you know, back then, they were like, they would kill the black kid. Like, he was over, that he was just going to be expendable. Not this kid. Like, he was like, you're not going to get me. And he goes busting out the window. This kid climbs over the gate with the barbed wire. Like, he lives. Like, this is real life right here. This black kid, you ain't getting me. I'm getting out of here. But that was ahead of his time. Because in the most horror movies, the black guy gets killed first. Right? And then next is the Asian chick. Like, you know.
That's true.
This is how it goes. But yes.
Okay. All right. I'm loving that. Okay. They were discussing Being Human, which was best. Colin pointed out the British was his favorite because he's Brit.
Of course, I get that.
He's biased. All books fall under a trope. All
yeah, they do.
Yeah, totally. What is scarier for you, a child possessed or a monster?
That's a very good question, Nana. I think, in my opinion, probably a child possessed, possibly because it could go either way. It really depends what the monster is. I would have to have a discussion on what the monster is compared to the possession, because even we all know possessions, they all say, I'm the devil, you know. Yeah. Most of the time, the demon is lying in order to give you more fear, because the devil would be more intimidating than just a little class demon. It could be a stronger demon, yes, that you could have more of a problem defeating in this case. But when things are small and could do something to you, that's creepy. So a child being possessed is quite creepy. But a monster, there's a broad umbrella for monster. So you don't really know what you're going to come across. So I hesitate to say that the possession would be more scarier. And the reason why that is because with a child possession, it is grounded in our human issues or human things like demons. That's earthbound.
Right.
Demons would be earthbound. Okay. Like that would be something that we humans deal with. Monster, I mean, you could loosely be like, okay, a monster, like maybe something cosmic could be a monster to you. Something off this planet could be a monster to you. Something that wouldn't be on the level of a demon. So demons are based in we can explain demon somewhat thought process, like why it does what it does, possibly. Right. Maybe if you're going in a religious setting, you'd be like a demon, because you really can kind of not. You can't avoid religion with demons, honestly. Because you're going to be like, okay, the demon hates God's children. Right. Okay, in this case. So he wants to take them away as much as possible. Right. Even the ones that may sin, it doesn't care. Like, it wants to get them, and it really wants to get the ones that don't sin so much. Right. But in this case, we're grounding it in our belief systems and things like that. So when you go to monster, it could be a monster from another plane or another universe or something like that. If we're going cosmic being, like monsters, then they're kind of like not grounded to our rules, to demons. So like I had a discussion with somebody in a horror group when they were talking about this clown. They're talking about the clown. So they're talking about It, and there's another clown, forget his name. He's from another horror series. And he's considered a demon, but he looks like a clown too. And then It looks like a clown, but It is a cosmic being. And I was like, there's no way that clown, demon or not, could beat It. And they were like, well, you know, he's like, he got beat by a bunch of kids, and this demon right there, he could be. Okay, let me explain something to you. There is no demon that can be a cosmic being. Not going to happen. Fact of the matter is, demons are bound and based around us. Cosmic beings is well above that. You have no theory. You have no thought. You don't know what's going to go down. They exist on multiple planes. If you beat them, let's just be honest. Those children, even as adults, they did not beat It. It wasn't lying when it said, "I'm greater than you could ever imagine." Like, you can't, like, different planes. When they killed It, though they didn't really beat It and kill It, it was on different planes. It knew this was going to happen. It knew that they were going to do what they did, but it had an ego issue too. So it still wasn't beaten. And if you really read it and how it happened, even at the end when that town became a crater, they still all was kind of forgetting what was happening once they left. That's the effects of it. It isn't gone. So they didn't get beat. It didn't get beat by them. You can't. It's a cosmic being. That's the layers of cosmic beings. So a demon fighting that cosmic being is laughable.
Yeah. Well, I love it. You answered Nana's question about what do you think of it? Well, there you nailed it. So Aphrodite says, my melanin and rainbows always get to thrive. Thank you. I appreciate you for that. Child possessed period. Monsters do not scare me. I thought this was interesting. A recommendation for us. Tokyo Vampire Hotel. Loved that one on Amazon, I think.
Okay, I'll check that one out. I haven't seen that one.
She asked if you've seen Stranger Things.
I have.
Thoughts? Yes, no?
Yes, I like it because of the whole atmosphere behind Stranger Things.
Colin says, also because I'm late to the game, I'll be watching the replay for the interview. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate you for that. Has anyone mentioned People Under the Stairs? Not vampire or zombie, just a superb movie. I don't even know this.
Yes, People Under the Stairs I saw when I was younger. I actually watched it not too long ago again.
Oh, really?
Yes, People Under the Stairs was probably different for horror, maybe of its time, because also the cast is mostly all Black. And the main character is a child, a young Black male, and the villains are they're a brother and a sister. They call each other mom and dad, and they have a daughter, but she is adopted. And so their relationship is kind of odd. So it seems like they're kind of in a relationship. So they have this daughter that they adopted, but we don't know she's adopted at first. And the people under the stairs, there are people under their stairs in their house.
They didn't have that checked on the inspection when they moved.
They put those people under the stairs.
Oh.
They cut their tongues out like that. They can't talk. They kind of mumble. And there's a character named Roach. You've seen him in some other horror movies. He's a decent known horror in the acting world. His name is Roach, and he gets up in the walls. He's the one that they can't control. They control all the others, and they're cannibals. They feed them people. And they're pretty much kind of cannibalistic themselves. And yeah, so People on the Stairs is a really good one. That actually definitely a cult classic.
Yeah, that's trying to mess with my mind.
Look at Aphrodite's like, stop!
And fear will always exist, so it will always survive. No. I will be watching the replay. Thank you. Fool was my hero.
Yeah, Fool. That was his name. Fool. I called him Fool.
Stairs BTS, otherwise nope.
She's like, stop. She can't take the horror, man. She can't take it.
Well, listen, I'm kind of here for it. So, quick question. I've got a question for you. So, there was a movie that came out a few years ago. However, I just read a book that had a recent similar kind of story. But the idea was, the movie was called The Skeleton Key.
Yeah, I know that one.
Do you know the story? So now in that instance where it's like kind of based in a magic system, like a voodoo magic system, does that technically count as horror? Or is it just still paranormal because of the like witchy factors of it?
It's still, because when you go into film, like far as the book would be, we would have to really see about that, because in film, when you say paranormal, it's going to fall into horror. When you're in writing and books, paranormal is like, angels and vampires and werewolves and ghosts. They just throw everything under the same umbrella, which I really don't agree with. Yeah. But that's what they do. So in this instance, yes, it could be really depending on the atmosphere. It could be a subgenre, and like horror could be the subgenre for this. But Skeleton Key does fall under that umbrella because horror is a very wide umbrella because it's like flavors for everybody in horror. Yeah. So in that instance, it can, even with magic being involved, because if we throw witches, let's say, okay, in horror, they are.
Yeah.
So in this instance, the magic would be involved, things like that. So it could fall under horror because of this. So magic definitely can still be. It's going to be the word horror. We're going to just, umbrella that all those things under that definition of something horrific. So We can say that. So yes, definitely, yes, easily.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, guys, we are nearing the end. I'm going to take just a minute before we thank my dear guest and just encourage everybody. Most of our folks who come for these are AuthorTube people. So I always say, hop down in the description. If you're not already following the guest on the social medias, go ahead and do so. I explain to as many friends as I can the point of these algorithms, but I can't tell you how much it helps a creator, content creator, no matter who they are, no matter what the platform is, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, pick one. But if you see them, go watch their video, give them time, be sure and like it and comment. It helps them. And so that's important. So do all of that in the description below. Her Tillery's website as well as Patreon is down below. So make sure you check that out, as well as the link to local haunts. So if you want to read The Room Within, which was so creepy, you can check it out with the link in the description below, and look forward to, I can't even speak. Look forward to, I still can't speak. I look forward to her debut novel around Halloween.
Yes.
So I'm so grateful that you stopped by and played in my playground. This has been
fun.
Too long coming, but I'm glad you're here. I definitely want to do it again when when the book's ready. And I want to have you on, and
I hope that many people like Cagliostro, and I hope that a lot of people who don't necessarily like Cagliostro, honestly, I will take it either way. But as long as they're talking about Cagliostro, I don't mind.
No such thing as bad press.
This is true.
And I think I can't wait for it. I'm excited. Now that I know the Room Within connection, I'm even more intrigued, and that should be a teaser for anyone out there. If you want to take what Cagliostro is going to be, get down in the description below and buy that anthology and read The Room Within, because holy spooky.
One of the characters from Cagliostro's world is in The Room Within. Dun, dun, dun.
So the story itself is going to be a part of Cagliostro.
So not exactly.
Okay.
Now I'm kind of like, think about me, and this is where I'm similar to Stephen King.
Yeah. In
this way, Stephen King's stories connect a lot. It's the same universe in a lot of cases. So some characters you may hear their story or something like that. That's going to happen in my world. So somewhere in the middle of Cagliostro, there is another character appearance that's going to be in another book. So I do it on a regular. So as you read my stuff, you'll see like, wait, this character was where? This character did what? And of course, by reading The Room Within, you still aren't going to know a lot about Delata from that. But as you read Cagliostro, then you're going to be like, okay, now I can see who she is. But she did this over here? Like, when did she do that? Well, she has her own life too.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, I love that. Also, I know on behalf of Bex, I would love for you to come do a panel with us for a critique group at some point in the future. I don't know when, but whenever it works for you.
Let me know.
Come play, because you have like I said, when I read your story, you have a unique voice. It's very different. I love it. And I think you can bring a lot to folks out there that are kind of trying to learn. And that's open to anybody of my AuthorTube people. Hop in my inbox and let's find time to do the critique panel. Let's all help each other.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. I'm going to give you a quick last taste of your love. Oh, let's see. Yes, I already did that. Nailed it. But as yet, I've not done zombies. Guest on our panel. Yep. Thanks, Barrett. Great show. Thank you, lady. I feel like I'm in the club. Let's see. Okay, after the break.
Voice of Slater. Oh my God.
So I can feel safe again.
Listen. You need to read that. I wasn't ready. It's erotica.
Oh.
Listen, Barrett. You're not ready, but you need to read it.
I'm not ready, but you want me to be ready.
You need to read it.
Okay.
It's so good though, but like it's so bad.
Really selling it. I love that this is how we're closing this out. Okay, well, I'm going to be reading that.
Love you too, Banana.
Everyone out there, we love you. Stay healthy and well. Wear a mask. Be kind. And I look forward to seeing all of you around here again soon. Please go down the description and support DL Tillery. I appreciate all of you and wish you all the best. So,
and always, as I like to say,
finish it out.
Scared.
All right. Bye, y'all.